Okay. So I think it's like almost 9:05. Uh, we'll start shortly. So before start our program, it's like PhD in English, a comprehensive guide. The headline all of you have shown already, have seen already. তো আজকে বেসিক্যালি যে প্রোগ্রামটা আমাদের আছে যে পিএইচডি ইন ইংলিশ যেটা টোটাল গাইডেন্স একটা ওভারঅল সামারাইজ টোটালি প্রোভাইড করবেন আমাদের গেস্ট আমাদের চিফ গেস্ট বলতে পারেন অ্যান্ড উনি একজন প্রফেসর ভেলোর ইনস্টিটিউটের অন্ধ্রপ্রদেশের ডক্টর অনিন্দিতা সোম। উনি পিএইচডি করেছেন ইউনিভার্সিটি অফ হায়দ্রাবাদ থেকে। So before starting to our program, I'll just shortly tell about hope. What is hope actually and what it's doing? I will take 2 to 3 minutes just and we'll hand over to the speaker. So hope is basically an educational and welfare trust just started up by group of students from the all part of our society to reach the society in the top to make an effort to the betterment of our society. So actually hope works in the educational, in the social welfare field, different kind of field it generally works. So we started our coaching from Hope Trust, that is net set. We already started that the basic pillar or the first footstep of PhD, that is the net set examination, that CSIR or UGC, and WBCS, the one of the most competitive exam in our West Bengal, then SSC and guidance for PhD. So we are working on the several fields in the education parallelly. So that's all about hope. And if you wanted to know more, if you want to know more, let us contact with us. You can go through our Facebook page and follow us in YouTube. So there is everything. So PhD, generally, I'll just take 1 minute from our speaker to just shortly tell about PhD. It's like the first stage to reach your higher studies, to achieve something in your field to the maximum level actually. So before that, generally for PhD, we have to be prepared by physically or mentally. If we can dream about PhD, we can get the battle of winning that thought that we can get the PhD within 4 or 5 years. There are a lot of like problem and trouble, we can achieve PhD. So that's all about PhD and all those things. Our speaker will definitely speak it all about like whatever is there, what are the problems and what are the like things it will be including. And at the end of the our session, we'll have 15 minutes for question answer session. So please make sure within that time your audio and video is muted, and let us start our program. So I'll hand over to our guest speaker, Dr. Anindita Shome. So please join with us and take over your session.
Thank you so much, Tausif, for a warm introduction. I'm audible, right?
Yeah, it's fine. It's all right.
Okay, so I'll start. Very good evening to all of you. Thank you for being here, and thank you for having me here, Hope Foundation. So I'll share my PPT. Just bear with me for 30 seconds. Let me just share my. Okay, so a very warm welcome to all of you and good evening. I hope you are safe and studying well for whatever your goals are, NET, PhD. So in this, the plan is to give an overall, it's an overview of PhD in English and interdisciplinary department. I have completed my PhD from an interdisciplinary department. My master's was in English from F2. After that, I worked on diaspora studies from the Center for the Study of Indian Diaspora, University of Hyderabad. So I had 2 primary chapters. One was totally on literary narratives. The other was on digital humanities. So in this presentation, I'll overall talk about PhD in English, and if you want to take admission into an interdisciplinary department, working with both literature and something else, this would also be helpful in that. So going ahead, the first and foremost thing that comes to your mind would be the PhD entrance examination and interview. So you will have to understand, say suppose you're preparing, you will have your certain goals, you will have, first of all, you will have to know what departments you have to get into. Regularly keep a check of the universities and institutes. There are a lot of good state, central universities, institutes as well, where they do good research. So you will have to know which department, which university caters to your criteria, what are your interests, so what you like to specialize in. So I was always interested in migration and diasporic literature. So I found out all these department centers which work on these and then apply. So you could also do that. You could go for something very canonical in English department. That's also fine. So make a list of all the universities as well as the departments, as of the professors, who works under what exactly, how many of them do they have, find out if they are taking students, because now there is a UGC limit. So accordingly you can apply. So first and foremost job is regularly check the websites of universities and institutes. Next is the eligibility criteria. Check the eligibility criteria. There are maybe there are still places who ask for a net GRF before you can sit for the entrance exam, or probably if you have a net GRF, you can directly go for the interview. So you have to check that. Every university institute will have that eligibility criteria. I completed my MPhil and then went into the PhD, but MPhil is not anymore there, so you could directly take admission to a PhD program now. The third thing is, if there's an entrance exam, then you have to check the sample question papers. That's very important. University of Hyderabad and many other universities, the website, they have the sample question papers. If in case some university or institutes, they do not have the sample question papers, you can reach out to the seniors, reach out to the alumni. They will, use the social networking sites to reach out to them. Mail them if you have their mail IDs and find out the sample question papers. Practice accordingly, according to the latest sample question papers. Keep that in mind. And the fourth and the most important thing, I believe, is your research proposal. You have cleared the entrance examination. Remember, then in some of the entrance examinations of PhDs, they'll ask you for a proposal right in the question paper. So I appeared for some entrance exams where they already asked us to write it right in the entrance exam question paper. What do I want to work on? What are my ideas? So as well as before the interview, that was asked in the question paper. So I would advise you, keep a research proposal ready, a very short research proposal. Have certain ideas in mind before going for the entrance exam. They might just ask you for a research proposal in the paper. Then of course, if you have cleared the interview, you have your net GRF, you're directly going for the interview. The research proposal is essentially important. Find out if it's a 500 words or a 1,000 word limit, or there is no word limit. Keep in mind the research time frame, most important thing. Will you be able to complete your research within a time frame of say 3 to 4 to 5 years? 4 to 5 years, so keep that in mind. Do not go for something which is very vast. Narrow it down, not too much when you go for your interview, but narrow down your topic. Make sure when they ask you how do you go ahead with it. So keep in mind, you'll have your coursework, then you will do your literature review accordingly, simultaneously, then you'll go into your writing, or say you are working on something which requires interviews. That also happens in literature research English departments. So if you're working on something where you go to your community and research, keep that in mind. Make a time frame so that if the interviewers ask you a question, you are ready with it. So research proposal. One more advice would be, I'd advise you to go for very contemporary topics. Say, if you feel that you have to work, you're interested in digital humanities, or you're interested in any other relevant topic, so keep it contemporary, keep it relevant. Well, because you can change your research proposal after you get through your PhD program, after registration as well. But even then, keep in mind that it's relevant to the job market as well. Always keep this in mind. you go get through a PhD program, keep after 2 or 3 years, start looking, keep in mind that this PhD, this topic, you would be sitting for job interviews and you will be letting them know that this is your topic for postdoc positions as well later on. So make the research proposal contemporary. And of course, if you take something like you want to work on something which has a lot of work has been done, but you feel like you could place this in the contemporary situation, you could also do that. But make sure you have a justification with you. Then form a strong argument in your interviews as well, especially they will question you, you then counter question you. So stick to your argument, be like make a strong argument, have strong points with you. You should be able to defend your proposal. You should be able to defend your abstract. Then, of course, make someone proofread your proposal or abstract, someone who is already into the PhD program, or if you know certain professors who are working in your field of study, make them read, make your seniors read your proposal, or your friends who are good at it, your proposal and abstract. I'd advise you that. The other person would be able to find out the loopholes in your proposal and abstract. Right? So this would be basically the first step you do. Find out the universities, institutes, department, professors, what are they working on, what are the new things in English literature these days, and look into the sample question papers, keep your proposal ready, look at the eligibility criteria, your argument should be strong, you should be able to defend your proposal, and of course there should be no grammatical mistakes and there should be no loopholes in your proposal. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Of course, specifically on research proposal, selection of research area very important. If you feel you have to work on Victorian era, if you feel you have to work on post-colonialism, you have to narrow it down because it's a research proposal. Your area should be specific enough. You want to work on diaspora studies, so narrow it down, find out which writers would you like to work under, which countries specifically, find out how varied, how varied all these things are. You want to work on subaltern literature. So select your research area very carefully. Look into it that it's something that's relevant in today's world. Also, it's answering some questions. You're raising some relevant questions. So selection of research area very important. Take some time, read up everything, and then select the research area. As a backup, you can have 2-3 research areas as well. Then, of course, your preliminary literature review, that would be the first thing. Your main literature review would happen during your PhD. But make sure that, so I was asked in my PhD interviews about what books I plan to read in my PhD. Do I have books in mind? Do I have theories in mind? Do I have people who have already worked on this? Do I know? Am I aware of all these writers and scholars? So I was asked this and I had to leave a few. Also in the proposal, you can have a bibliography and you can mention that you will be looking into all these things when you go to do your PhD. So be aware of the people who have already worked under this field of study, whatever you choose. Of course, find out the research gap in the selected topics. You will have to find out what are the loopholes, what are the things that are yet to be studied in, say, Shakespearean studies. What is still there to study in that? You can find the research gap. You can then bring it on, say that these questions need to be answered. So basically, you will select your topic area and find out loopholes in it, and that is what you will say that your research is going to answer, or research is going to maybe rethink about the entire thing. Keep in mind the word limit, very important. The theoretical methodological frameworks. Of course, once you get into your PhD, you will have lots of meetings with your supervisor, TC committee regarding this. Takes a lot of time to finalize your theoretical and methodological frameworks, but include something of it in your research proposal. There are good institutes, universities who will ask you for a detailed research proposal with what theories do you plan to take up, what is the method you want to take up. So make sure that you include that, at least have a fair idea about it, all right, before going into, say, you can say that you look into it, you discuss about it, you're open to more discussions about it, but at least have a fair idea in your research proposal so that when you sit in front of the interview panel. Okay, so selection of supervisor. So basically, what you have to do is go ahead when you search, when you choose your university, institute, make a list of all those things. Every university will have a list of faculties under each department and center. What are the research areas? So note it down. And of course, later on as well, after you take your PhD admission, you can still select your supervisor. Through your coursework, if you feel that you can work better with the supervisor, with this professor, you can of course go ahead and do that. In some research and PhD interviews, they'll ask you, have you thought about under whom are you going to work under in this department? So for that question, at least have an answer ready. That's it. So in the research proposal, when you're going for this, you're selected for the interview, keep that answer ready in case that question comes up. But mostly you are flexible enough to choose a supervisor later enough to get admission as well. Right? Okay. So you have done wonderfully in your interviews and exam, and then you get to your PhD program, literature review. You have your period of coursework. It could vary from 1 to 1.5 years. So period of simultaneously you literature review. You will have everything ready. All your whatever you have to include. You have to do your literature review. There'll be so much of elimination that will be there. These are not needed. This is needed. So I'll advise you as you go ahead, say you start working on your thesis after you take admission, immediately make a bibliography or reference section, keep writing it. You're following an MLA style, you're following an APA style, Chicago style, because it's a huge task after 4 years, 3 years, 5 years to go back and understand from where did you get this code, okay, from where did you summarize this. Because Turnitin or any other plagiarism that software will be able to catch hold of anything that is not cited. So it's always, you do not have to waste much time in the fourth year going back and finding out from what text did you take what. So what I'd advise you to do is write from your literature coursework, whatever you feel is relevant. Open your Word document as soon as you say you copy paste a quote, you put it under quote, cite it, refer it, keep your bibliography ready right from your first year. So you do your literature review during your period of coursework, relevant literature on the topic, of course, you will read a lot on your topic, on your subject area, but take things that are relevant to your research. What are you looking into? Okay, just take that. You do not have to take in everything that you have read. So take something, form an argument in your literature review. So basically, an argument should be formed, look at the historical context, contemporary context, place your work in that, whatever you read, place your work within that literature, right? Your work should fit into it. So basically, it should be relevant literature connected to your research. Of course, contemporary work, especially in my PhD work in my thesis, except for the stalwarts of the field, I was asked to only choose the past 5 to 10 years of research work in my literature review, all right? Nothing older than that. Except, as I said, if it's very relevant, if they're stalwarts of the field. Other than that, it was always, I submitted in 2021. I started taking scholars or reading works or citing them only from 2010. So my supervisor was very clear, like 2000, 2010, nothing too old until unless that person, that theory or that work is very essential, crucial to your research. So contemporary work on the topic, because you will also get to know what are the contemporary things that are going on. Are things changing in your field of study? Are there some new arguments that are changing perspectives? So contemporary work, very important. Of course, you'll construct an argument. It should not just be you're going to the library or working on a PDF, reading it and just citing it for the sake of it. You should form an argument, construct an argument in your literature review. So this would be a very important part in the first 1 or 2 years of your PhD. Next, the thesis, which is important. So very, very important, cannot be exaggerated. Chapterization. So I'd advise you, this takes a little bit of time. You have to have meetings with your supervisor. So I used to have at least later on from the third year, fourth year, it was weekly meetings. During the pandemic, it was online. So, and also I went back to campus in 2020 when to complete it. Then they were like very frequent meetings because, of course, I was wrapping up things then. But initially, the chapterization phase, you have three primary chapters. You will have an introductory chapter. You will have 2 to 3 primary chapters according to your field of study or whatever you choose your area of interest, and then say you will have a conclusion. So basically, if you have 2 primary chapters or 3 primary chapters, what should be in it, which chapter should come first, what should be in the introduction. So basically, the rule is that usually it's followed, it's not a rule, that you start with your primary chapters, then you keep framing your introduction. But what I did was I had my introduction ready. It was approved by my supervisor, doctoral committee, and then I went ahead. But I kept on changing the introduction as I kept on working on my primary chapters. So you could do that as well according to whatever suits you. So this chapterization phase, you have to sit with your supervisor and discuss if it's working well. If it's becoming too broad, if it's becoming too narrow, if you have 3 texts to work on, or two texts to work on, or you're working on say theater. So this will totally be between you and your supervisor what you feel is best for your thesis. Of course, conceptualization, this takes a lot of time. So the first 2.5 years spent after conceptualizing, like how do I want my thesis to look like? Should this be the first primary chapter? Should this be the second primary chapter? What do I want in my introduction? Do I want certain things repeated? So a lot of the things I wrote, so initially I had 300 pages, too many things, so many redundant things. So everything had to be, a lot of things had to be changed and deleted. So those things will be there. Conceptualizing, having that idea of your thesis, that takes a lot of time, a lot of doctoral committee meetings with your supervisor. Once you have conceptualized the entire thing, it runs very smoothly. Trust me, it goes on very smoothly from there. But this chapterization and conceptualizing what you want, are these theories fitting in? Is this the methodology? So I did a lot of content analysis. So is this the right way to go ahead? That takes a lot of time, and it's okay. It's supposed to take that much time, all right? It's supposed to take a year or two conceptualizing the entire thing. But then I'd advise you, like I said, keep writing your literature. If you keep things ready, whatever needs to be ready, then as you said, your supervisor gives you a green light, your doctoral committee is happy, you can start writing your thesis. Of course, plagiarism, free report, nothing should be copied. Always cite things, refer to things. No idea should be copied. It should be, so the University of Hyderabad asks for less than 15% of plagiarism report. So basically, I had a 5%. So they will be, if it's more than 15 or 20, whatever university asks, probably it's 15 everywhere, you will unnecessarily have to redo things in the end. So and you have a lot of things to do in the end after completion of 4 to 5 years. So ensure that everything is plagiarism free, you have cited things properly, you have referred to things properly. And as usual, theoretical methodological frameworks, very important part of the thesis. A lot of pages go after this. Sit and think with your supervisor what theories you need to use. Don't use too many theories. A methodology, it should be uniform. I use, like I said, a lot of content analysis, textual analysis. So understand what you want to work on, what suits your thesis, what you're comfortable in. So basically, you will choose that. This will be the basic chapterization, basic everything about thesis would be here. Okay, so I go ahead. What are the other things? So you have, say, you'll be clearing your net exam, you'll be working on your thesis. What else do you need? So PhD can't be. So PhD in itself should be as a journey, as the end goal in those 5 years. CIT completed in 4 to 5 years. But after that, a life is going to start. You want to go into academics. You have to think about you have to get your resume ready, right? You have to get your CV ready. Also, in your thesis, UGC, so you have a rule. So my supervisor was very particular that I should have 2 Scopus publications and 2 conferences, all right, international. Preferably go for international conferences that is needed to clear your thesis. And so talking about conferences, this is not only going to help you clear your thesis, but it will also help you when you submit that resume, give that resume for a job. It's really going to help you. Okay? Conferences, workshops, seminars. So there are a lot of online websites or on even on Facebook. There will be a lot of WhatsApp groups which will talk about international national conferences. Make use of those. Of course, there is hybrid conferences, online conferences now. Make use of those opportunities. I attended a lot of online conferences during the COVID time. It's very easy. There are many good conferences, say in UK and US, even from amazing universities which do not charge anything for the online conferences. I don't know about now, but at least 2020 or 21, they were not charging anything. And those were like very reputed conferences. So make use of those conferences, look for conferences, seminars, present your papers. It's important so that you get ideas. Not only will you grow more confident, you will be inspired by the amazing number of ideas others have. You'll be able to defend. You'll be ready to for the final defense of your thesis. When you attend conferences, you'll be networking a lot as well. Make use of the funding. Every university will have an international conference funding. Make use of it. There will be conferences which will fund you totally. Make use of all that opportunity, all right? And of course, networking, collaborating on the conferences as well as outside of it, very important, all right? So conferences, seminars, I would advise you, it keeps you, makes you constructive, it keeps you on your foot. So like start taking part in conferences. It's very essential. Of course, you could meet one or two international conferences while you clear your thesis finally as well. Okay, publications essential, very important, right? Also, when you apply, you have your thesis in place, you have it in hand, you have defended your thesis in 5 years successfully. So now publications, wherever I've applied for a job, they would ask for a Scopus or Web of Science or UGC care list. Do you have those publications in hand? Also, for clearing your thesis, you need to for my supervisor, it was essential to Scopus publications. So he kept on saying that you need to have two Scopus publications at least. So go for Scopus index journals. You will require one. I'd advise you for the job market, go for two, at least have a good publication profile, all right? There is ResearchGate. Go and see there where are your contemporaries, where are your seniors publishing, target those journals. Then there is this place called Schemago. So you go to this website, you will have rankings of, so Scopus journals will have rankings and ratings you could apply. So initially you could start applying with a ranking which would, the acceptance level is more, than target the good ones, very good ones as well. Look for all this indexing of the journals. UGC care list journals are also fine. You could apply to those as well. Make a list of relevant journals, of course, relevant to your study. So with the thesis, you will need to publish the journal, something that should be relevant, something from the thesis. So one of my articles, like it was from what I was working on. The other one was something general or diaspora. But whatever your field of study or research area would be, find out journals, easier to publish it then. Acceptance rate is more because they'll know that you're already working on it. You could be the first author, it could be a joint publication, it doesn't matter initially, all right? But then look into this. The writing of a journal, it's very different from writing the thesis. So you will learn all these things as well. When you sit with your supervisor and you work on how to apply, how to send things for a Scopus index journal, you learn so many things about journal publications. Writing a chapter is also very different. You have to submit a chapter to a Routledge textbook, Italian Francis, so anything like that. Writing a chapter, writing a journal article, writing a book chapter. These things you will have to learn during your PhD, all right? These things are very important, helps you immensely in the job market later on. So learn all these things, not only how to write a thesis, but how to present in conferences, also how to publish in good places, how to write a journal, how to write a book chapter, how to write a book review. These things are very important as well. So as you go into your PhD, focus on this 5 years, 4 to 5 years, make a list and ensure that you have learned these things before you take that degree and go out into the job market. Okay, so funding and scholarship, of course, you have the UGC funding. There are so many fundings there accordingly, so you could go for those fundings. There is list of, so you go to this page, you will have your UGC scholarships and fellowships. Keep applying to those in time, and of course ICSSR also. So I also got funded from ICSSR. You could also simultaneously work on projects. If your department has projects, you have to apply, sit for interviews. So you could do that as well. If you do not get it, so you can only avail one fellowship or scholarship at one time. That's all. That was the rule when I was doing my PhD. So suppose your PhD 5 years are over and you still have a year left or something, you could go for an ICSSR funding or ICMR, whatever your research field of study is. There will be a lot of projects that are there. You could apply and make use of those as well. Of course, there is non-net fellowship. I hope it's still there. It was there till last year as well. So you could, if you don't have any of the fellowships, GRF, you could go for a non-net fellowship as well. So you will have to be aware of all these things. Keep checking these pages regularly, and of course, talk to your supervisors, everyone else. Is there any new fellowship that is in place which you could apply to? So you have to be aware. You have to keep updating yourself on all this information. Of course, then with all this, when my publications were done, when my conferences were in place, thesis was ready, what you have is a pre-submission presentation. So that happened 2 months before I finally submitted my thesis. So a presentation of the entire thesis I gave a presentation of 40 to 45 minutes. So entire presentation of your thesis, your TC committee member would be there, supervisor, as well as it will be open. It will be open for everyone. I had an online PhD pre-submission. You could have it in the offline mode as well. Everyone would be invited. Defend your thesis and arguments well. Write down the suggestions, because you will be given 2 months time. Mostly, so I was given just 2 months time to work on the suggestions and submit the thesis. And of course, you will do your final editing and proofreading. Keep the final editing proofreading. My supervisor is very strict. It should all be ready before I go for my pre-sub. If there are any changes, we will do changes in that. I did not do any major changes as such. After the pre-submission, only things I could include, I included that. So take 2 months after your pre-submission is over. You'll get a lot of ideas. Your department people, others who come in to listen to it, even your DC committee members, they'll find the loopholes in it. So they will be, if this pre-submission goes well and you submit things well, you will be ready for the final defense of the thesis. So what they are seeing is, if this gets cleared, you will be ready to submit your thesis and you will be ready for the final doctorate title. So make sure that if there is a loophole, major loophole, something with the methodology, so I had to work on my methodology, I had to get it ready. So it was all there, but I was not presenting it properly, especially the method section, method part of it. It's an interdisciplinary department. So I did a lot of work with literature and sociology as well. So I had to be very clear, mention it very clear in my pre-submission, what's my methodology in the thesis. That had to be very clearly mentioned. So that was something I was confusing. So I was asked to work on it. For the next 2 months, I readied everything, worked on it, made it clearer and more concise. So I was ready for submission and of course for the final defense. So write down those suggestions and final editing and proofing. You should all be done with it. But after that, also the very final editing and proofreading, and submit your thesis, preferably within 2 months. Don't take too much time for the final submission. Then of course, once your submission is done, it goes to the externals. As it goes to the externals, it takes time. It will go to 2 to 3 externals. They'll send their reports. Mine was sent within 3 months. So I submitted on December 15th. Then January, I started working as an assistant professor. And then in last month, April, I had my final defense of the thesis. So it takes time. The reports will come into place, and then you will not be shown the report when you go to defend your thesis. That of course is a rule. Maybe some universities will let you know about the report, but most universities will not let you know. Once you are there, you are ready with your thesis. So in the final defense, your externals will be there, supervisor, doctoral committee, everyone else. They will let you know what is there in the report then. So you will have to be ready for any scenario there, but be very confident. It's your work; you would know it the best. And if they say that no, if they're still saying that no, this has to be improved, say that yes. When I publish this as a monograph, I'll take your suggestions into account, write it all down, because these would be amazing externals who have worked a lot with a lot of years of experience. You would only be helped by their advice, nothing else. So take those suggestions and say that you agree to it and you'll be looking into it while you're publishing this. Then there will be questions after you're present for 30 to 40 minutes. Externals will ask you questions. That is when you have to defend it, you have to convince them you're ready for your doctorate title. Then after that, lot of questions. So I had a lot of discussion. My external examiners were very kind. Now I had questions as well as discussions. It felt like it was a discussion of the work. They wanted to know more about the work. So they were very kind and very humble externals. But then it went on for half an hour, 40 minutes more, and then they were convinced that I'm ready for the title. And there will be questions by the audience as well later on. And defend your arguments well, as I said. Note down the areas of improvement, because you will have a lot of journal articles, 2 to 3 journal articles. You could do that from your thesis once it's finally done, or you could publish it as a monograph too, as a book as well. So for that, note down those areas of improvement. Also, they will also ask you for further research and suggestions. What could you take up if you have plans for postdoc, or how could you do more research? What are further scope in this area of your research? So write it all down. Be very confident. Take it as a discussion between people people who have read and loved your work. Because when they send the report, they have already written it out there that they have cleared the thesis. All right. So they're already convinced by your work. You only have to do a 20 to 30% work of defending your thesis well in front of the examiners, externals. That's it. So that's it. You are done with it. You'll get your doctorate title touched, and then you go to the job market. You will have your CV ready with presentations, publications, conferences, or theses ready. So that's why, and then again, you will choose your area where you want to work, in which university institute, whether you want to work, say, in something which is interdisciplinary, something which is very conventional, totally on you. So that's it. That is the overall process of an interdisciplinary department or English literature. That's all overall. This is the process and everything that happens inside this. And to ensure that I would highlight again, as you are doing it, ensure that, as my supervisor said, this is going to be with you for your entire life. This is what will get you into the job market, sustain you. So be very careful about it. We do your work very diligently. So treat your thesis and your entire 5 years in that manner. All right. Ready yourself for a professorship later on, or whatever job you want to take up. So that's it. That's all from my end. Thank you so much. So if there are any questions, I'd love to take it up.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Actually, it was have a wonderful talk, and we are very helpful about knowing all those things regarding PhD, those areas, thesis writing, and all those things. So now we'll just join in our question answer query. কারো কোনো question থাকলে, if you are comfortable in Bengali, you can speak in Bengali too. So you can ask our professor or ma'am. So any one by one, please. So you can now enter our question answer session. So please.
Okay, so there's a question in the chat box. I'm audible, right? So Shabnam asks that, can the publication of literary articles in the journals while facing interview, would it prove beneficial? Does it accelerate your chances of getting admission in research? It does. Okay, it does make a very positive influence. So if you have published in journals, you already show research aptitude, it always helps. I did not have a publication before joining my MPhil. After that, I did have after my MPhil. But then before that, I didn't have. But things are getting very competitive, and it always helps. I know I had batchmates in my masters who were publishing during masters, attending conferences during masters from FLU. So it always helps. Okay, so you should always go ahead with it. And how to approach this? Would you please suggest how to start my research study? Okay, so you have a few literary areas for research in mind, but you don't know how to approach to get a suitable research topic. So basically, the first one would be, see, you have to sustain for 5 years out there. If you choose something which you're not interested in, you have to sit and think a little about it. All right, Shabnam, that what is my research area? What can sustain me for 3 to 5 years? What happens is there will be a lot of ups and downs in your PhD. It's a long time, takes up a long time. So of course, it's amazing to have a good support system. Even with a good support system, it takes 5 years. It takes up a lot of time of your life. All right, 5 years are not very short. So what you have to do is, Shabnam, take a topic that will sustain you. So I'm very interested in migration, refugee studies, and everything. So I knew this is going to sustain me. So first and foremost, what's your passion? You're passionate about what your interests are. Then read up a little. Go to JSTOR or go to other, if there are open articles, read a little. Or there are also a lot of PhDs. So you go find if you have open. So they will be published PhD thesis also online. Go there and see, read up if your research say you have 2 to 3 literary areas. Are these feasible enough? First is, are these feasible enough to work? Are departments, English departments or any other department, gender departments working on it, all right? Is it feasible enough? Second, of course, your passion, then if it's a feasible topic, feasible area or not. Third is, will it help me in the job market later on? Will it help me get a job in a research institute? You are going to teach, is it going to help me there? So keep these three things in mind. You'll always have to see it. So that's what I said. Your preliminary literature review is going to be very helpful. Sometimes as you go ahead and read about it, you will understand that you are not doing. So I was initially interested in food and diaspora a lot. I started also reading up on it. Then I realized it's a wonderful topic, but that's not something I'm very interested in. Alright, that's not going to sustain me. Then I moved into something called youth diaspora literature, Chumpa Libraries texts, and virtual narratives. So these things, I was also very interested in digital humanities as well. So there's a chapter on that as well. So you will have to find out what's relevant, what's going to be relevant later on as well. And our department centers working on this. Can you find a supervisor, good supervisor who work on this? Okay. So those are the things you have to narrow down. Do a literature review. Find out things from your library if you have access to one, online, Google it, find things, and you have to read up a little to understand if these topics are relevant or not.
Okay, so thank you. I think Savnam got your answer. Okay, so another question in the chat box. So Moody Child, yeah, like ma'am, thesis is theory application की mark. Shubhodip. Okay, ma'am, please.
Okay. Theory application, see, if the supervisor does not ask you, you're doing something out of the ordinary, then it's okay. But it's advisable to use at least theory. Like I used a few post-colonial theories, and I used transnational theories. It's related to diaspora. So after the two theories, theoretical framework rakha bhalo. You will learn a lot. You don't, like I said, you don't have to bring in a lot of theories into it. Bring in relevant theories. তুমি যখন theories গুলো পড়বে তখনই বুঝবে কি is it fitting into my research areas? So so I worked. So Leela Gandhi's post-colonial work fit into my research area. So ওগুলো মনে রাখতে হবে, and I'd advise you to make it place it in a theoretical framework. Put simple but strong theoretical framework হলেও চলবে, nothing complicated. Even I'm not that strong in other theoretical frameworks in English, but then আমার যেটা দরকার ছিল transnational theories and post-colonialism and specific writers যেগুলো কাজ করেছে আমি just সেইগুলো নিয়ে প্লেস করেছি. That's it. My theoretical framework should be connected to my research. That's it. That's all they'll see. All right. It should not be something you bring in a lot of theories, but your research has nothing. তো ওটাও খুব একটা কাজে লাগে না. But I'd advise you, because তুমি অনেক কিছু শিখবে PhD এতে, তো theoretical frameworkটা কি করে করতে হয়, প্লেস করতে হয় শিখে গেলে it's nice. It's a good thing. It will not be something negative.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, ma'am, for your answer. So yeah, anyone পরে কারো কোনো কোশ্চেন থাকলে অবভিয়াসলি ম্যাম আছেন, তোমরা one to one you can ask our ma'am, so it's open to all. Okay, so ma'am, what about plagiarism of thoughts? And yeah, you can see the question in chat box, right ma'am? Plagiarism of thoughts and ideas.
Okay,
Yeah.
what about plagiarism of thoughts and ideas? See, what happens is, say, suppose you have read some idea somewhere. See, your ideas would match. I am thinking of something. It would definitely somewhere in the other part of the world would be thinking about it. Those things are unavoidable. All right, এত population, এত লোক research করছে, কেউ না কেউ তো ভাবছেই ওটার ব্যাপারে। But see, what you do is, Arjun Appadurai has said something. ওটা অলরেডি খুব ফেমাস, অলরেডি খুব পপুলার, বাট তুমি ওটাকে বলছো কি ওটা আমার আইডিয়া, দ্যাট ইজ নট অ্যাকসেপ্টেবল। অলরাইট, ওটা একটু অ্যাভয়েড করতে হবে। লাইক দ্য থিং ইজ অলরেডি দেয়ার। হ্যাঁ, তো জিনিসটা অলরেডি আছে, ঠিক আছে। লাইক থিওরিজটা সে ইউ হ্যাভ অলরেডি অনেক থিওরিজ আছে, যে অনেক আইডিয়াস আছে যেগুলো ফেমাস, এটা জানে যে ওকে এই সাবঅল্টার্ন থিওরি বা এই সাবঅল্টার্ন আইডিয়াস গুলো অলরেডি কেউ বলেছে, বাট তুমি ওটাকে বলছো না এটা আমার। সো দ্যাট ইজ সামথিং উইচ ইউ শুড অ্যাভয়েড। বাট অফকোর্স তোমার হয়তো কোনো আইডিয়া, যে হয়তো সাউথ আফ্রিকায় কেউ কাজ করছেন, ওটার সাথে ম্যাচ করবে, তো তখন তুমি কি করবে, দ্যাট যেগুলো খুব ফেমাস আইডিয়াস না, অ্যাকসেপ্টেড আইডিয়াস, সেইগুলো ইউ উইল অলওয়েজ সাইড, কি এই মানুষটা এটা বলেছে, এটা বলেছে। এডওয়ার্ড সাইড যদি ওরিয়েন্টালিজম এনেছে, তুমি বলতে পারো না ওরিয়েন্টালিজম আমার নতুন কিছু। ইউ কুড গিভ এ নিউ থিং টু ইট, ইউ কুড রিডিফাইন ইট, তুমি নিজের ইয়ে করতে পারো, বাট তুমি বেসিক যদি খুব ফেমাস থিওরিস বা কারোর আইডিয়াস আনো, দেন ওগুলোকে ডেফিনেটলি সাইড করতে হবে। দেয়ার ইজ নো ওয়ে আউট। অলরাইট, and so that is it about plagiarism
Okay.
of ideas and chances in foreign conference. দেখো ওইটা হলো গিয়ে কি করবে না, কনফারেন্সেস অলসো খুব মানে খুব ক্লেভারলি কাজ করবে। তো সবসময় অনেক ফরেন কনফারেন্সেস ফান্ডিং দেয় ভালো। তুমি সিনিয়রদেরও জিজ্ঞেস করতে পারো। কিছু কিছু অনেক সময় কনফারেন্স প্রত্যেক বছর দেয় না, হয়তো 5 বছরে একবার কিছু করলো আর ভালো ফান্ডিং দিল। তো ওগুলো তুমি ট্র্যাক করবে, ঠিক আছে, কোন, আর সবসময় দেখতে থাকবে কোন সিনিয়র কোথায় কোথায় যাচ্ছে। অনেক সময় ওরা মেনশন করবে I have been fully funded, all right, বা partially funded, ওগুলো সব লিস্ট বানাবে। দেন চেক করতে থাকবে অনলাইন কোন ইউনিভার্সিটিজ এ খুব কনফারেন্সেস হয়। এবার প্লেসেস, প্রত্যেক স্টেট ইউনিভার্সিটিও নিশ্চয়ই ফান্ডিং থাকবে। সেন্ট্রাল ইউনিভার্সিটিতে একটা ফান্ড থাকে, একটা মডারেট অ্যামাউন্ট থাকে, খুব একটা বড় অ্যামাউন্ট থাকে না, একটা মডারেট অ্যামাউন্ট থাকে। তো ওই অ্যামাউন্টে তুমি যদি কনফারেন্স থেকেও ফুললি ফান্ডিং পাচ্ছ, ইটস অ্যামেজিং। আর যদি তুমি ইউনিভার্সিটি থেকেও ভালো কিছু, সে হাফ তোমার ট্রাভেল অ্যালাউন্স দিচ্ছে বা কিছু, তো টার্গেট করবে ভালো কনফারেন্স গুলোতে তোমার এরিয়া অনুযায়ী, অ্যান্ড দেন করতে থাকবে। ইটস এ লিটল ডিফিকাল্ট, স্পেশালি ফরেন কনফারেন্স ফান্ডিং, বাট সে 5 বছরে ট্রাই করতে করতে ফার্স্ট ইয়ার থেকে একবার তো হয়েই যাবে, শিওর অ্যাবাউট ইট। তো ইদার তোমার ইউনিভার্সিটি তোমাকে হাফ ফান্ডিং দেবে, তুমি হয়তো হাফ ম্যানেজ করলে, কিংবা কনফারেন্স হাফ দেবে, ইউনিভার্সিটি হাফ, বা কনফারেন্সই ফুল দেবে। সো এগুলো একটু নেটওয়ার্কিং করলে জানতে পারবে সিনিয়র্সরা কোথায় গেছিল, কোথায় এইসব বেশি ফান্ডিং দেয়, তোমার রিসার্চ এরিয়া অনুযায়ী কোথায় কি অ্যাপ্লাই করা যাবে। সো এইগুলো একটু মাথায় রেখে করলে দ্যাটস অলসো প্রসেস। ওটাও বসে বসে অনেক লিস্ট বানাতে হয়, কোথায় কি কি ফান্ডিং কি ম্যানেজ করা যাবে, কবে অ্যাপ্লাই করতে হবে, অ্যাপ্লিকেশন কবে। তো এইগুলো দেখতে থাকতে হবে তোমাদের। মাঝে মাঝে তো প্রত্যেক দিন যদি 8 ঘন্টা করেও দেখো, ইটস মোর দ্যান এনাফ। বসে যদি 8 ঘন্টা করেও চেক করো কোথায় কি কনফারেন্স ইন্টারন্যাশনাল ফান্ডিং দিচ্ছে, দেন আরামসে কিছু না কিছু 5 বছরে তো পেয়ে যাবে। ইজ নো ডাউট অ্যাবাউট ইট।
একদমই, লাইক থ্যাংক ইউ মানে ম্যাম, যে কনফারেন্সের ব্যাপারগুলো আমরা যদি প্রতিনিয়ত আপডেটেড থাকি, so we can choose like where funding is good and funding is like suitable for us, so that's good. So next, Samim Biswas has a question like, is child education development area is a good choice?
Okay, child education development, English এর আন্ডারে?
বাংলাতে ম্যাম, অলরেডি ও বাংলাতে লিখেছিল বলতে।
না না, মানে চাইল্ড এডুকেশন ডেভেলপমেন্ট এরিয়া কি এডুকেশন রিসার্চের আন্ডারে নাকি কোনো লাইক ইংলিশ ডিপার্টমেন্টের আন্ডারে করতে চাইছো চাইল্ড এডুকেশন ডেভেলপমেন্ট?
I think he is speaking about English area, probably Samim Vishwas. Okay, so English, yeah.
আচ্ছা,
Okay.
ওকে। সামিম, ব্যাপারটা হচ্ছে চাইল্ড এডুকেশন ডেভেলপমেন্ট এরিয়া যদি ইংলিশ ডিপার্টমেন্টের আন্ডারে করছো না, দেন ইদার তুমি ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ রিলেটেড, লিঙ্গুইস্টিক্স রিলেটেড এরকম কিছু কানেক্ট করতে পারো। বিকজ মনে রাখবে যখন তুমি ভেবে না পিএইচডিটা শেষ হলো বা তুমি প্রপোজাল নিয়ে গেলে, তোমাকে ওই ইংলিশ ডিপার্টমেন্টের প্রফেসররা কেউ কাজ করে কিনা ওটার আন্ডারে দেখতে হবে। ওকে, তো আমি তোমাকে বলছি তুমি যদি চাইল্ড এডুকেশন ডেভেলপমেন্ট এরিয়াতে ইন্টারেস্টেড হও, হোয়াট ইউ ক্যান ডু ইজ তুমি কি করতে পারো, অনেক সময় অনেকে কাজ করে হলো লিটারেচার কি করে এসব প্রাইমারি স্কুলস বা হায়ার সেকেন্ডারি গভর্নমেন্ট স্কুলস বা যে কোনো স্কুলসে সেকেন্ডারি লেভেল চিলড্রেন এরকম এরিয়াতে লিটারেচার কি কোনোভাবে লিঙ্গুইস্টিক স্কিলস বাড়ায়, এগুলো অনেক কাজ হয়। ঠিক আছে, তোমাকে কানেক্ট করতে হবে ইংলিশের সাথে, ইদার ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, লিটারেচার, লিঙ্গুইস্টিক্স কিছুর সাথে কানেক্ট করতে হবে। চাইল্ড এডুকেশন ডেভেলপমেন্ট এরিয়া অ্যাজ সাচ হয়তো সাইকোলজির আন্ডারে পড়ে যাবে বা সোশিওলজি বা এডুকেশন ডিপার্টমেন্টের আন্ডারে পড়ে যাবে। বাট তুমি যদি ইন্টারডিসিপ্লিনারি বানাতে চাও আর তুমি পরে ইংলিশ ডিপার্টমেন্টে যদি জব নিতে চাও বা যেখানে লিটারেচার পড়ানো হয়, ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, তোমাকে কানেক্ট করতে হবে যে আচ্ছা তুমি যদি ইয়াং অ্যাডাল্ট লিটারেচার নিতে চাও, তুমি যদি ওরাল চিলড্রেন্স ফোকলোরের উপর কাজ করতে চাও, তো এগুলো কি এডুকেশন ডেভেলপমেন্ট হয়, কোনো এডুকেশন লেভেল বাড়ায় বা তো এইগুলো দেখতে হবে। তোমাকে ভালো মতন দেখতে হবে তোমার যদি ইন্টারেস্ট থাকে চাইল্ড এডুকেশন ডেভেলপমেন্টের উপর, ওটা তোমার ইংলিশে তোমার এতদিনের এডুকেশন প্লাস তোমার যখন তুমি জবের জন্য অ্যাপ্লাই করবে ওটার সাথে তুমি কি করে কানেক্ট করছো, তাহলে তোমার অনেক স্কোপ বেড়ে যাবে। তখন তুমি ইংলিশ ডিপার্টমেন্টের অনেক প্রফেসর কাজ করেন না, বাট মেবি তুমি কাউকে পাবে যে এগুলোর আন্ডারে কাজ করবে। তুমি তাহলে ইংলিশ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ এডুকেশন ডিপার্টমেন্টে যেতে পারো, এটা কি তুমি প্রবাবলি লিঙ্গুইস্টিক্স ডিপার্টমেন্টেও অ্যাপ্রোচ করতে পারো প্রপোজাল নিয়ে। তো তোমাকে মনে রাখতে হবে তুমি মাস্টার্স ইংলিশের স্টুডেন্ট, তো যখন তুমি পরে পড়াতে যাবে তখন এটা রেলেভেন্ট হতে হবে। ঠিক আছে, তোমাকে কিছু লিটারেচার, ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজ, লিঙ্গুইস্টিক্স ঘেঁষিয়ে রাখতে হবে জিনিসটা। ঠিক আছে, দেন ইউ ক্যান ডু দ্যাট।
Okay, so yeah, Samim, I think Samim got your answer.
Okay, can we directly approach professor? দেখো ডিপেন্ড করে প্রফেসররা কতটা অ্যাপ্রোচেবল, বাট অলওয়েজ টেক এ চান্স। ঠিক আছে, আমার মনে হয় যদি খুব ভালো ইনস্টিটিউটস হয়, অনেকই আইআইটি এনআইটি প্রফেসরসরা তোমাকে রিপ্লাই দিতে পারে। ঠিক আছে, মানে ধরো নতুন এজ খুব ইয়াং প্রফেসর তারা রিপ্লাই দেবে, তো তুমি তার এরিয়া দেখবে, তুমি সবকিছু তোমার রেডি রাখবে যা কিছু আছে, এন্ড দেন তুমি কথা বলতে পারো। অলওয়েজ হেল্পস, তুমি 10 জনকে যদি দাও দেন একজন তো তোমাকে রিপ্লাই দেবে। ওকে, তো তুমি ডিরেক্টলি অ্যাপ্রোচ করে রাখলে ওরাও মনে রাখবে when you apply, give the entrance interview এর জন্য। দ্যাট ইজ গোইং টু হেল্প ইউ। তুমি মেল, অ্যাটলিস্ট মেল তো করতেই পারো। ইভেন ইফ ইউ ফিল দ্যাট তুমি কাউকে চেনো এই ডিপার্টমেন্টে, তার খুব ভালো কন্ট্যাক্ট আছে প্রফেসরের সাথে, র্যাপও আছে, তুমি গিয়ে দেখা করতে যাও, সেটাও করতে পারো। দেয়ার ইজ নাথিং রং ইন ইট। তো বাট দেন রিমেম্বার কি অনেক রিজেকশন হতে পারে, না করতে পারে, বাট ইটস ওকে। 10 জনকে বা 15 জনকে করলে একজন রিপ্লাই দিলেও ইটস এনাফ, রাইট? তো কোনো প্রবলেম হয়।
হ্যাঁ, এক্স্যাক্টলি, লাইক প্রফেসরকে আমরা অ্যাপ্রোচ করতেই পারি, তো রিজেকশন এন্ড অ্যাকসেপ্ট তারপরের ব্যাপার, দ্যাটস ফার্দার স্টোরি। তো আর যদি কারো কোনো কোশ্চেন না থাকে, তো আই থিঙ্ক আমরা আজকে সেশন এখানে ক্লোজ করব। তো আই হোপ অল উই অল ডান। তো বেসিক্যালি আর কারো কোনো কোশ্চেন যদি না থাকে আমরা সেশন ক্লোজ করছি। তো বিফোর মানে সেশন ক্লোজিং, জাস্ট দু একটা কথা যে থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ ম্যাম ফর ইউর লাইক priceless time, and like we have our official Facebook page and our mail ID, official contact number, everything. If you wanted to contact with ma'am, any inquiries, further queries, anything, we'll be always there. We'll be always supporting you guys all. So let us know whatever is the issues and the problems. So hope we'll be always there with you guys. So thank you so much all, and thank you once again, ma'am. So good night all. Take care. Have a good day.
Yeah, good night, everyone. Take care.